Hey Campagna T-Rex fans, Todd Kerber here. Today's subject, brakes. The reason I'm doing this video, 2.5 years ago, I started to notice a brake vibration. I was driving in the Smoky Mountains for the first time, doing 100 mile an hour down mountain roads, and I was a novice. I was probably applying too much brake, leaving the brake on, not downshifting and using gears to slow me down. And I think that novice move heated up my brake, specifically here on the driver's side, and warped it. The way I found it, I jacked up wheels, turned the wheel, this driver's side wheel grabbed and released. So that told me I needed to purchase a new rotor. Let's go over what I've got. Got a 2007 1400R. It has 4 piston Wilwood calipers up front. Rear is a 2 piston Wilwood caliper. All brake lines have already been upgraded to steel braid. I purchased these from Wayne Goodridge when he used to have his online store. All fluids were replaced at the same time. Brake reservoirs are underneath the nose. The left one is for the front brakes and the right reservoir is for the rear. You use .4 brake fluid. .3 is used in your clutch reservoir to the left there. So back to this warped front brake rotor. I needed to order a new rotor. I called my man Duren Burnside at TrekSite. By the way, I asked him if it was his name of his business was pronounced TrekSite or T-Rex site. He said tomato, tomato. So I'm going to stick with TrekSite. As you can see, I've just got drilled front brake rotors. They are not slotted and they are not ventilated. I have the option to replace just this side, but I decided I wanted to do a little upgrade and install drilled and slotted rotors. Not ventilated. I would have had to change the calipers. I'll insert a picture of one stock rotor just drilled. You can usually get them for $200 or less. Decided to buy the drilled and slotted rotor from Duren. I'll put his information below. You can give him a call. They are $240. If you mention you saw and called him because of this video, he'll give you a little discount. Not long after I ordered from Duren, they arrived. Nice and shiny and silver. They're gonna look great on my machine. And I want to explain a little bit more. You can see that these are drilled and they're slotted, but they are not ventilated. Ventilated is when it's wider and you've got vents down the middle. If I went that route, I would have had to change all my calipers, and I didn't want to do that. Duren did mark that they are directional, and I pulled up a lot of YouTube videos online, and there's some inaccurate ones out there. But Campagna T-Rex puts them, I'm on the driver's side as you can tell, and they want the leading edge of the slot to go forward. Now what I gathered online watching all the videos is when it hits the brake pad, it draws the pad down and in, and there's reduced vibration. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that say it doesn't matter for the slots. It more matters when you have the ventilated, when you've got that thicker in the vents. Some of the vents in this inside, and that's not on this one, but inside the vented type are straight down, and then it doesn't matter on those. But when they're angled, when it rotates, you basically want the air to come up and get slung out. So ventilated are directional or can be directional. Note the extra drill holes in order to match up to the hub on the Campagna T-Rex. Anytime you change your rotors, you should always change your brake pads. So next up, needed to order front and rear brake pads. First, I needed to find out what I had. I've got a serial number on the front brake calipers right there. I'll insert a photo so you can see that number. Google the Wilwood brake caliper 120-6813. Wilwood's site will come up. You can see the part number right there. And if you scroll down to brake pad specifications, you'll see brake type 7112. Now that we have the pad type, Wilwood, I didn't realize this, have 8 different compounds of pads. But to make it easier for street, you've got BP10 is the stock, you've got BP20 is performance oriented, and then there's a BPQ, which is also street. It's newer. And now I had to try to figure out which one I wanted to go with. I chose BP20, and I'm not going to go through all the other types, but basically there's a graph. This is all on Wilwood's pages. You can see the BP10 compound starts off. This is friction, and this is your heat along the bottom here. So obviously as your brakes and rotors heat up, friction drops off and less braking power. So you can see BP10 drops off pretty abruptly in the beginning and then maintains more. BP20 is the thick blue line here, goes up on initial braking and then drops off. BPQ looks like it would be a better pad, but when you go to all of the ratings per each of them, average friction wasn't always in the green. Initial bite here is in the green on the BP20. Pad wear is in the orange. Rotor wear is in the yellow. Modulation, which is the precision of your braking, is in the green. The release is in the green. And the high temperature resistance brake fade is in the yellow. So BP20 has been around a long time, and I went with that upgrade. I do have BP10 on my T-Rex, and BP20 will be a nice upgrade performance brake pad. I'm going to go with the BP20 compound. That's the 7112 type, and there is your part number. Going to simply enter that Amazon and order it. 2 days later from Amazon, the front brake pads have arrived. There's close-up of the end and the part number. Open the box up. This is what it looks like. There's your wear mark in the middle. Rear brake was a little more difficult to figure out because there are no serial number or model number markings on the caliper from Campagna. So I had to pop the pads, and I'll show you how to do that now. Simply get a screwdriver, lift up this little tab right here, and push it back, and pull this pin out. Like so. Lift up one of the pads, they come right out. Since the caliper didn't have any markings, but the pad does. So you can see there it's Wilwood 150 9764 is the part number, and the type of pad is at the bottom there, 6812. And that's what I used to order online, and I verified on Wilwood's page. Ordered the pads online, Amazon, received in 2 days. Here's the sticker on the end of the box. Note the 20 right there, BP20 pad type. Total cost was $106. I've got 4 in here. I'm only going to need 2 for the back rear caliper. Inside the box, here's what a 2 piston caliper brake pad looks like. Also wanted to briefly mention the rotor in the back rear. It is drilled, it is not slotted, and it is not ventilated. Most of the braking power is up front, so I'm not gonna take the time and money and expense to try to get slotted rotors in the rear. I'm fine with this. I've got a little bit of marking there. That is probably due to previous owners using the parking brake and driving with the parking brake on. Got all my parts. Let's get to work. I'm going to start on the rear caliper first. I already removed the one in order to order. Just need to pull the other one out. If you have to, gently take a small pry bar and push the pistons back into the slots in order to put the new ones in. I still had plenty of pad on my old ones, but you can see the new ones are a lot thicker. The new pads would not go in, so I did have to use this bar as the one I chose. Little construction bar, put it in there and gently just push, lift up on the driver's side I should say, and then this way and lift up for the passenger side. Now I have enough room to actually slip the pad down inside. Obviously the pad goes to the rotor, and then this side will go in as well. Put the pin back in. You want to lift that pad up so it goes through the holes. You have to lift this part up in order to get it over that notch. So I did use a screwdriver in order to lift this part over there, and I got them lined up. But once you get it lined up, then you come over and you got to do the other side like that to line up. And again, this has got to go up and over that hump. Hopefully I can do it here for you. And push that all the way through. And again, it's got to clip over this outside as well. Rear brake pad installation is complete. I'm going to do both driver's side and passenger side at the same time. Loosen all 10 lug nuts up with 3/4 inch deep socket and breaker bar. Lug nuts, all 10 are loose. Jack both sides up. Both sides are jacked up. I use my small jack over here with a little rag on it. I like to use this portion of the lower A-arm to jack up. My large jack over here, again, using the same spot. Got a little rubber piece there. Remove all 10 lug nuts and both wheels. Front wheels are off. Pull the brake pads in front. Got to bend these two straight so this pin can be removed. I found small needle nose pliers, angled, seem to do the trick to straighten that out. Pull the pin. Once the pin is out, you can wiggle the brake pad out and remove it. I had to wiggle the rotor, and I didn't really have to pry to get that first one out, but remove all 4 in the front. All 4 front brake pads are out. These are the old ones. Here are the new ones. If you look close at the wear marks, I was almost ready for pad replacement anyway here, and you can see how much I've got there. New, old. These are BP10 standard pads. These are BP20 high performance pads. Remove the calipers on both sides. Start with removing these 4 caps. 9/16 inch open end seem to grab this bolt nicely here. And again, 9/16 socket with short extension seem to work. Remember, you'll loosen up all 4 of these, both sides, and remove the caliper. Nuts removed, both sides of the caliper onto your fender brackets. Now the caliper and the rotor come off at the same time because you can't get this bolt out without taking it. But the caliper is on this side of the wheel hub assembly and the rotor is on that side. So pull them both off together. Rotor and caliper are off. I just simply put the caliper bolts back in the hole to hold it there. Check your hub assembly at this time. Make sure there's no movement. Make sure there's no grinding noise. If for some reason you needed to replace your hub, they have them online, and you basically just remove 1, 2, 3, and there's a 4th bolt underneath there. This assembly comes off, and you simply put the new one right in its place. Front rotors are off, old and new. Everything is off and disassembled. Old brake rotors and brake pads thrown away. Reverse the process, reinstall new. Time to clean and polish everything in all the little nooks and crannies before reinstallation. But I like WD-40 and a rag for that. It's petroleum based, cuts grease and oil, leaves a nice oily shine. I do like to put lithium grease. I like the aerosol can, spray on the lug nuts, bolts here. Place the new rotor in the caliper and put them both on together. Rotor on the hub, caliper on, everything's loose. Caliper bolts are through here, no nut on it yet, here and here. Reinstall nuts, both sides. By the way, I did notice there is a washer down at the bottom on this one, so the washer does go on the bottom. All 4 bolts and nuts tightened up, both sides. These go through the fender brackets and attach the caliper. Now is a great time, both sides, to tighten up all of your fender bolts. This one was loose up at the top and I got a small little crack there, so I'm going to put a large washer like I have on the other side, and hopefully that won't break off. That's common to the Campagna T-Rexes. Washer installed, fender, all 6 bolts and nuts tightened up. Install the brake pads, both sides. If they don't fit, which I'm sure they're not going to initially, I'm going to have to get that little pry bar out, push those pistons in a little bit on both sides, being very careful to expand in order to drop them in place. One dropped in, the other one's tight. I'm going to have to get the little crowbar. That's how I use the crowbar, but I stick it on this side of the rotor and the piston and just gently push. You can feel the piston go in a little bit, and I'll keep doing that until the second brake pad will go in. Second brake pad is in, and it slid in pretty easily once I got the piston pushed back. Now put the pin in. Once the pin is all the way through, bend these 2 little ends out. Pin is bent out each direction. Still have these little caps, plastic caps, to put over these 2 little nuts, but I don't particularly like doing those, so I'm going to leave all 4 of these off. First test with everything together, pushing the rotor against the hub and turning. No friction, everything is smooth, everything looks good. Put both wheels on and snug the lugs. All the lug nuts are on both sides, now snug with a 3/4 inch deep socket. Wheels are still off the ground. Both side wheel lug nuts are nice and firm. Let's do another test, make sure everything spins freely. And it does. Drop it off the jacks. Torque all lug nuts with 3/4 inch deep socket to 90 pounds per foot. Everything is back together. One more trip to the computer to go over bedding the brake pads. Wilwood has on their website brake pad bedding guidelines for street. I'll insert a picture of it after I talk a little bit about it. Drive real slow around a safe area. I'm going to do that shortly around my circular driveway, make sure I have braking. They have you at moderate speed, brake for 5 seconds, then release for 10 seconds. And then speed up a little bit faster until you get to basically 55 to 65 mile an hour and do more aggressive braking down to 25 mile per hour, and they'll be properly bedded. I'm not going to go through and read this whole thing. You can do that yourself. Let's go for a test drive. I'm just going to drive very slowly around my circular driveway. Make sure I got brakes. Don't forget, you have your parking brake down there. Just hold the button down and use that brake in a pinch if for some reason the brakes failed and you couldn't stop after you do anything like I did. Start pushing the brakes and see if I can get any resistance to them. I'm getting the pistons back against the brake rotors. I'm pumping slowly. I've got resistance on my brakes again. Drive around the driveway super slowly and safely. Backing up, applying some brakes. I've got brakes. Making sure I can stop. I can. Kind of a brushy sound when I hit them, but I'm stopping, which is a good thing. Brakes seem to be working. I got friction. Let's go out on the streets. Make sure that I start the bedding process. I was up to about 30 miles per hour. Again, about 30 miles per hour stopped. It's about 50 miles an hour. Everything seems to be working good thus far. That was about 50 miles an hour. Oh man, the brakes are a lot better. Oh, that was good. Oh, nice. Oh my God, brakes are so much better already. Oh, fantastic. Woo, baby. Super happy. Fight is really good. Braking is very much improved. 60 miles an hour. Oh my God. Woo. Oh man, am I ever glad I freaking did this. The braking is probably double what it was. Fantastic. Look how good they look. Super, super happy. Oh man, just got done with that test drive. The braking is double of what it was before. Just after a few hard presses and testing and bedding in the pads like Willwood had on their website. Oh my gosh, I'm completely impressed. I did not expect that. New front rotors, drilled and slotted, and upgrading from BP10 to BP20 brake pads made a huge difference. If you like these videos, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and share. Thanks for watching.